Good morning. Sorry we can't recreate the weather from yesterday. It's a little bit on the damp and dreary side today, but we are excited to welcome you all to Blair Academy today. I'm looking down and realizing that no one ever sits in the first 4 rows. But happy to have you all back there joining us today. My name is Chris Fortunato. I'm Blair's head of school. I'm coming to the end of my 4th year here at Blair. Prior to being at Blair, I was the Dean of Students at the Harvard Kennedy School, their School of Public Service and Government, where I ran their PhD and master's programs, the academic administration for them, and a whole host of other things there as well. It's hard for me to believe that I'm coming to the end of my 4th year. In less than a week, the students who came here as my first freshmen are now graduating as seniors, which is amazing to me. They are going off to some of the most incredible colleges and universities across this country and in the world, and most importantly to me, they're going to the colleges and universities that are great and best fits for them. You arrived at Blair at a really exciting and wonderful time. There's so much going on these days. Mr. Curran and others are going to share a little bit more of that with you over the course of the time that you're here. Just yesterday, actually, we had all 460 of our students and members of our faculty and our staff go out to different nonprofits and government agencies and community organizations around about an hour's radius of Blair, or even a little bit further, all on one day, all at the same time, to perform service work for those organizations. So it was a wonderful experience. We came in here yesterday morning. All of our students were wearing our Day of Service t-shirt. It was a wash of blue t-shirts, and they all went off and did some really incredible and wonderful things, which is a testament to, even though it's more than just one day of service we do here, a testament to the kind of school that we want to be and the values of our school, that it's very important for us to be out in the world and out in the community. So as you drove up, some of you may have seen as you were coming up the hill here, the construction of a new facility, something we're also extremely excited about. The life of the mind, the academic life at our school is the centerpiece of what we do. Come September, we'll be opening a new facility called our Center for Innovation and Collaboration, which is going to be the new home for our fine arts, our media production, and for our technology offerings at the school. In addition to being a space where project-based learning, where collaborative interdisciplinary learning, our innovation lab and makerspace, all of those will be coming together in an entirely new academic space that really is novel for and innovative for schools, is looking at colleges, universities, and boarding schools around the country and making sure that our students are getting opportunities to have experiences and learn in different kind of ways that are going to get them ready for the kind of world that is changing around them every single day. In addition to that, we have so many of the offerings, academic, athletic, performing arts that are going on all right now. We actually are finishing, tonight is the last night of the second spring play we do called Frankenstein 2029, a very sort of different, maybe more avant-garde take on the subject material. So if you're walking around this building, you may see literally sort of pop-up sets that are in the art gallery and upstairs here too. Those are not necessarily always things that are out there. So if you see some interesting props, that they're not necessarily just sort of day-to-day props at Blair Academy. So we are excited about that. And that sort of comes on the heels of performing Much Ado About Nothing, which was an all-school read just over the last several weeks, where our students performed in our outdoor open-air theater, and then also on this stage. We're also at this sort of wonderful time in our school's history where we continue to look forward and do novel things and innovative things for our students' education, for their experiences here, and yet maybe very much stay true to who we are and the most important, I think, pillar of our school. We're a school focusing on the relationships between faculty and students and making sure that our faculty know our students very well. And you'll hear a little bit later today how we accomplish that, the structures and scaffolding we put around that. Because ultimately, great relationships are the foundation of great learning. And I'm extraordinarily proud of our faculty and our students and our staff who really focus on that, and focus on having those relationships, focusing on the school being an engaging and rigorous and yet kind and empathetic place. And those are extraordinarily important to us. So you're going to hear more about that over the course of today from people who are going to be on this stage and elsewhere. And I'll just sort of tell you as I sort of wrap up this intro and then turn it over to Mr. Curran, who's going to share a little bit with you and the video, and then come back and do a panel with some of our faculty. We know that the world is changing a lot. We know that it's not enough to just be smart. We know that there are values that are important to us, that our students come to a school like Blair and be known for who they are, not who they think people want them to be. That they understand and discover the things that are most important to them. That's the experience that we build, generate, and protect here at Blair. So our students can learn the skills to be great communicators, great problem solvers, be wonderful ethical decision makers, build relationships across all lines of difference, because that is the world, those are the skills in the world that they're absolutely going to need to be successful, to be competitive, and most importantly, because college is not the end result of your life, to actually feel fulfilled in the lifetime ahead. So we're excited to have you begin to get to know Blair today, and hopefully to get to know Blair over the course of this coming year in the application cycle. But for now, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Curran, who's going to tell you a little bit more about the day, show you a couple of videos, and then you'll have an opportunity to hear a little bit from some of our faculty. Mr. Curran. Thanks.
Welcome. It's wonderful having you all here today. I'm Peter Curran, the Assistant Head of School for Enrollment and Communications. My question I asked many of you students when I was walking around is, what time did you get up this morning? And many of you got up far earlier than you normally do on a Saturday. I think I heard one at 5:30, who then fell right back asleep when he got in the car with mom and dad. So thank you, students, for being here and getting up early. Thank you, parents, for coming out and seeing Blair today. I want to show you two quick videos, and then we're going to have a panel of faculty members. You'll go on a tour of campus, you'll come back, and there'll be a panel of students and parents, and then you're welcome to stay for lunch, and there'll be a few games this afternoon. This is going to be more of an informal day. I know some of you have other commitments that you may have to duck out early, no problem whatsoever. You don't have to stay through lunch and the games, but you're more than welcome to if you'd like. So the first video I'm going to just quickly show you is a video recapping the year. It's a year in pictures from last year. You need to get a quick glimpse of that. So.
Some playful conversation sparks my imagination. Now we're swimming through the endless possibilities. Our hearts are intertwined, igniting like fireflies. I always knew this light would lead me back to you. You walk in and say hello, and everything is beautiful.
One thing that I'd say a lot about Blair is Blair students think with their feet. And I'm not saying that anything you think can happen, but there's some wonderful creativity and a lot of intellectual curiosity on this campus. And students earlier this year had the idea to start a drone club. which is really cool. And so we went with it. And so we now have a drone club on campus, and a few students will be flying their drones around. And students, I was talking to a few of you guys today on Instagram. It's great to follow Blair on Instagram, but also follow Blair in the Sky, because that's the drone club, and they have these unbelievable shots. And I'll tell a very quick anecdote. I was with a crew team a week ago, and we were out on the water, and the student brought his drone with him. And I wanted him to take pictures of the rowers rowing and really buzz the boats and everything. And so we were out in a motorboat. He's flying his drone. I'm sort of there just taking up space, I guess. And then he said his battery's running out and he needed to replace the battery on the drone. And I was like, all right, what do you want to do? And he said, Mr. Kern, you need to catch the drone. And I was like, great. So we're going in a motorboat. I'm standing up. I'm reaching out to catch the drone. He's freaking out because he doesn't want the drone to hit me in the head. And there's a certain way to catch it. I'm leaning out the boat. And then we get the drone. We replace the battery. All was good. And we have a really cool video of crew on our lake. If you check it out on our website, on the crew page. But what I'm going to show you is a video that students made from the drone club of, you're going to take a tour of campus, but this is going to give you a little different vantage point because it's going to be from the sky. So this is a few members of the drone club, a video that they put together just of campus shots, and then we'll start the faculty panel. So enjoy.
My colleagues come up on stage. I'll share an anecdote as well. First of all, I love seeing that. I have one of my advisees actually who's a member of the Drone Club. And to Mr. Curran's point, our students are engaged, entrepreneurial, intrinsically motivated on a lot of different levels. Whether they're starting a drone club or yesterday when I was out with my advising group doing service work in Blairstown, we had finished the various assignments we had to do. We had a little bit more time left, and as we were walking by sort of a small pocket park that was in between buildings, our students said to us, can't we do this one too? And we went into actually one of the business owner who was right next to it and went in and said, okay, we have a group of ready, willing, and able students who want to do something with this particular park. And they were absolutely thrilled, and so we spent actually longer than our typical day of service working on that park. And I got a text last night as we had actually sort of reappointed a pathway that went through this park area and done some mulching and weeding and landscaping. One of my advisors around 9:15 sends an email, or sends a text to me saying, you know, I think we did a good job with the path, but I was walking by it like before I went home, and I was like, I think I need to do more work on it. And that to me was just this sort of emblematic Blair experience of our students. Yes, we asked them to go out and do this kind of service work, and when they were there, they became invested and cared about it, so much so that I have this feeling that some night or afternoon I might be walking by that park, and there he'll be with his sleeves rolled up and like reappointing this pathway again. That's very much, I think, who we are, who our students are, and who our faculty are. So I'm delighted to have my colleagues up on stage. I'm going to have them in a moment introduce themselves and talk a little bit about who they are, what they do, and a little bit about their Blair experience. I have to say that I'm thrilled and proud to have people who are incredible subject matter experts in what they do here at the school, but as importantly, are just great kid people. Whether they're in dormitories or dormitory staff, they're coaches, they're taking students to opportunities in Blairstown or around the world, in and outside the classroom. These are people who I have incredible trust and faith in, and I'm proud to call my colleagues at the school. So I'm going to go down this row right here, have them introduce themselves, and then I'll pose a few questions for them to consider and share with you. So why don't we start with Lori?
Hi, my name is Lori Perry, and I'm in my very first year here. It was really moving for me to watch those two videos because it was about a year ago that I chose to come here and the school, just to see what we've done in this last year is pretty phenomenal to see. So I came from the Lawrenceville School. I was there for a decade, and it's a great school. I hope that you'll look at it and all of our competitors, because there's something really special about this place in particular that made me choose to come here, and that is its size and its location. We have few enough students that we as a faculty and we as a community can get to know everybody well. We've got faculty and students who know every person on the entire campus, and I think that's going to be unmatched in a lot of the schools where you'll look. But we're large enough, so on the other hand, we're large enough that we have really innovative programs, and we have the student body and the faculty that can support that. We have enough students and faculty that we have enough courses at different levels to support kids with the right level of challenge so that they'll really grow. And yet we don't sacrifice that to not knowing one another really, really well. I think that's unmatched by other schools that I've had the chance to look at or work at over the course of my career. It makes us really special. Should we speak now to favorite experiences, or was that?
Sure, why don't you do that? Lori, by the way, again, is our assistant head and dean of faculty, and does an exemplary job and also teaches English at our school.
Yeah, I do teach English. So one of my favorite experiences this year has been in the classroom where I've been teaching a senior elective on boarding school literature. And we read a bunch of boarding school novels, and then students wrote and then revised their own not novels, but stories. And it was phenomenal to see the variety of experiences that they shared, be it in learning how to tie a bow tie by their faculty advisor, or taking a long road trip that actually changed the course of their college process, where they decided where they really wanted to go to school after a conversation with a faculty member while they were driving to Hackettstown to get their haircut. And again, it struck me as very different from other schools where I've worked. I've taught this same course at other schools, and I did that purposefully because in my first year, I wanted to get to know what our students think of boarding school. And at other schools where I've taught this class, it's much more characteristic in that kids write a lot about their experience with kids, but here, students wrote a lot about their experiences with adults, and I thought that was fantastic. Yeah, I think that's enough for that.
Yep.
Hi, I'm Kelly Haddon. I am in the science department. I've been at Blair this is my 8th year at Blair. I've taught chemistry and biology. I currently teach honors biology to freshmen coming in, and I also teach AP biology to juniors and seniors. And it's really special for me to reteach the students that I've taught as freshmen, and they come back to me as juniors and seniors. It's really great to see how they've grown and matured and really have developed the analytical mindset that we tend to foster in our students here. So the science department, when you come in, all freshmen take biology, and then sophomore year is chemistry, junior year is physics, and we also offer a plethora of electives, of science electives that range from marine science to astronomy to environmental science and such, so we have a lot of extra electives for students to take when they become juniors and seniors and really grow in the sciences. One thing I want to tell you is a lot of students come into my class and they're like, you know what, I'm not a science student, I don't like science, I'm just not a science student. And I'm sure that some of you can relate to the fact that the adults and the students here that, you know, you're in this mindset of, oh, I'm an art student or I'm a science student. So I have a little story for you about one of my students. When I was teaching chemistry to juniors, back in the day we used to teach chemistry to juniors. And when I had this student, her name was Annie, and she came in my class and she's like, I really don't want to take this, Mrs. Haddon, but I'm going to take this because I have to, and I have to have it to graduate. And so she came in, she didn't really like science. She says, I'm not a science student. And she took the class, halfway through the class, we started naming compounds. So first day, she starts raising her hand, and she names one, and she gets it right. I'm like, great job, and you can see her confidence building, and she gets the next one right, and the next one right, and she's really enjoying it. Next thing you know, throughout the rest of the year, she's loving chemistry, she's excited about it, and she really found her niche. And so the following year, as a senior, she actually took a biochemistry course as a science elective. So I just want to tell you guys, don't limit yourself. At Blair, there's so many opportunities to take wonderful classes, the electives, the activities and such, and really don't limit yourself to the type of student that you think you might be, because you might really find something else of interest.
And I'll just quickly chime in. So Mrs. Haddon is going to be the chair of the science department starting next year, and also has a fantastic background in the pharmaceutical industry and brings that industry experience to Blair. Our commitment to science, we have more students enrolled in science courses right now, many who are doubling up on sciences than we've ever had in our school's history. And in order to support that, we're actually going to be expanding our science facility, Bogle Hall, doing a major renovation and expansion starting next year as part of a suite of academic building projects that we need to be committed to. So whether it's independent science research, additional lab-based work or field-based work, that's part of the direction that we're going in, and we're excited to have Mrs. Haddon helping to lead the charge.
Good morning. My name is Nathan Multeney. I'm the Dean of Academics at Blair. This is my 9th year at the school. I've been the Dean of Academics for 2 years now. Before that, I've done a little bit of everything. I was a math teacher for those 7 years. I was also an academic monitor, which is a part of our dual advising system. I ran a freshman boys dorm for 6 years with my wife, Andrea. And we recently now have a 2-year-old son. We still live in the dorm, but we don't run it anymore. I coach third soccer, I coach JV baseball. I've kind of seen all the different pieces. So in addition to getting to talk about the academic experience, if you have questions on any of those other roles, I'd be happy to answer those as well. When I get to be up on stage here with my colleagues, I get to talk about and highlight different parts of the academic experience that get me really excited at Blair. And the one this morning that I'll talk a little bit about is the Center for Innovation and Collaboration that Chris also mentioned. It's really exciting to see that building coming to fruition here on campus. I've been part of the planning process with Chris and others since the beginning. And for me, that building, in addition to all of the courses and the tools that we'll have within it, stands for a process and an approach that we really want to make part of what we do at Blair. And in particular, we think of that process as being a way to develop our thinking and to handle large problems in a way that is not just internal, but is something we can express to one another. So we talk a lot about Blair, about communications. We also talk a lot about making what we know visible to one another and sharing it in different settings. And the CIC gives us that opportunity to have students go through a set of experiences that prepare them for what they might do in any field down the line, not just one that's directly related to the subjects that we're teaching there. Connected to that is probably my favorite experience of the year. About a week ago, we sat in this room with our seniors and we had the Senior Public Speaking Contest, which is always a great demonstration of what our seniors develop, not just in their speaking skills, but in their ability to relate their stories to the community. So I was sitting there and thinking about our 3 prize winners this year and how different their stories were and how they got there. One has always been an academic superstar at Blair. And she gave a great speech, but that showed off a different side of her, a vulnerability that we hadn't seen before. Another was a student who really struggled in her first 2 years here, but then delivered and turned it around through the support of her family, the teachers here, and blew us away with her willingness to come on stage and give a speech that I don't think many of us expected to hear from her when she started. And the last was a 1-year Thai scholar who started learning English maybe 15 months prior to the time that he was up on stage giving his speech to the community. And all 3 of them were celebrated for the story that they shared and the success that they had shown in the classroom. And that's, to me, at the heart of the Blair experience. There are many different ways to be celebrated by the community, but the community always takes the time to do that for its students. And that's what keeps me going here and makes me happy to be a part of this community.
And I'll say, to build on that, I love that this is a place where we affirmatively teach our students how to tell their story, how to understand who they are, their value system, and how to effectively relate that story. So the students and faculty, but the students who come on this stage, whether it's chapel talks that happen once a week, whether it's another public speaking opportunities, whether it's actually on film for a project we do called the Leadership Stories, where we have students talk about the things that they stand for in their lives. It's extraordinary the level of authenticity and vulnerability, which I think is ultimately a strength for our students, that they're able to exhibit. To Nathan's point, after several years, and sometimes the beginning can not always be the easiest time, but to come up on this stage and to be your true self on the stage in front of hundreds of people is just an extraordinary thing. And we see that we feel very, very fortunate and a little bit and overly blessed the fact that we have those students do that every single week here, and it's a wonderful testament to them and to our teachers.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to Blair. My name is Ladder Browse. I'm a math chairman. I teach math and I coach cross-country track. I apologize ahead of time. I don't normally lecture, so this is not the norm for the classroom experience at Blair, but it's the most efficient way, I guess, when you come for a free visit. I've been at Blair long enough that I'm currently teaching some children of the students I taught back in the day. However, I like to bring the old school and the new school in as well. Our math curriculum begins at Algebra 1. We have a full-scale Algebra 1 course, and then we proceed to geometry, Algebra 2, pre-calculus, calculus, and we got the course PAX, BC calculus. So it's a very traditional curriculum. You would enter, I'm speaking to the students in the class, you would enter at the level that's appropriate for you. So there's really a 6-year program that you come in at the course that would be most appropriate for you. We think it works very well. We are guided kind of by the AP. We don't teach the test per se, but we think we keep those ideas in mind. And our children, our students go off and do very well at college when they take math. I said children because I was a math major, not because of me. My wife's an English teacher. We battle, but that's a different story. In any case, our students do very well when they go to engineering or pure math or medicine or science, where they just happen to need mathematics. My favorite story, I guess, I have so many favorite stories. I love working on it, I've been here forever. I'm teaching freshmen for the first time in a number of years this year, so I went on the freshman retreat. We have a freshman orientation program at the beginning of the year. I didn't know any of them, they didn't know any of me, but we happen to be in certain teams, and we happen to be number 6. Well, 6 in mathematics is a perfect number. What can I say? It's a wonderful thing. So we're we got all fired up, we're doing the big swings, but the energy that the freshmen had, even though we were all strangers to each other, which translated, frankly, into the classroom throughout the year, was very beneficial. It really been a great learning experience both for the kids and for myself, who hadn't done it for a long time. I had a wonderful experience.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jason Beck. This is my 16th year at Blair, and I'm chair of the history department. And I'll let you can find out about the courses that we offer online. Take a look at the website, take a look at what courses those are, beginning with the required courses in the freshman, sophomore, and junior year, and all the electives that we offer. But we talk a little bit about one of the guiding principles at the heart of what we do, which really comes down to how do we ask good questions of the world around us, of each other, of the material that we're studying, of the teacher, and ultimately of ourselves. And we spend a lot of time thinking about those, what I would argue, that kind of fundamental critical thinking skill, which is that art of questioning. And going from there to how do we find good source material to answer that question? How do we incorporate that source material into good analytical writing or discussion or whatever the case might be? Those are the things that are kind of infusing all of the coursework that we do. One of the great things about the history department at Blair is that we're able to both bring the world to campus and go out and see the world as part of what we do. We coordinate a lecture series, a weekly lecture series every Tuesday evening, Blair Society of Skeptics. You can check that out online as well. Bringing speakers from all walks of life, politicians, media folks, athletes, journalists, all kinds of things to campus to talk about the passions that guide their lives and answer questions from our students every Tuesday evening after formal dinner. And so that's an important part of what we do, bringing all of these experts to campus to spend some time with us and with our students. But we also like to take students off campus. Chris mentioned earlier about going out and seeing the world. We, every year, take a group of students to DC to be part of the Aspen Institute, Atlantic Magazine's Washington Ideas Forum. We were one of the first high schools in the country to be a part of that. Still are only one of 2 or 3 that continue to attend. We take students into New York regularly for Intelligence Square debates, to lectures at colleges in New York and the Princeton area and the Lehigh Valley. But really a chance to get our students to take what they're learning in the classroom and then go out in the world and see how public intellectuals are addressing those issues and often struggling with the very same questions that they were struggling with when we were sitting around a table in one of our classrooms in Clinton. And for me, in terms of why I'm here 16 years later, for me, the thing that excites me every single day is that I get to sit around a table with a group of really interesting, excited young people who are going to read something with me that I've read probably a dozen times, but are going to ask unique questions about it. And we're going to collaboratively go through the process of trying to figure out why it matters and what the framework is, the historical framework that gives it purpose and meaning. And that every single day makes what we do here exciting. I think we all agree with that. That's kind of our own guiding purpose in what we're doing.
I would say that, speaking of what Jason's talking about with regard to the world coming in here and going out to the world, in addition to having extraordinary lecture opportunities through skeptics or guest speakers at the school, I love the fact as the CIC comes online too, one of our focus is going to be on bringing, whether it's alums or friends of the school or other experts, to not just necessarily come and impart their information or wisdom in a lecture, but actually to work alongside our students. Whether it's working on various projects, whether they're artists in residence, other scholars in residence. We have a friend of mine who is a former colleague from up at Harvard who spends a lot of time with us over the course of a year. He's a communications and leadership scholar and a civil rights scholar as well, and he will come spend time with us working on leadership communications with our students. In fact, I ran a seminar, a voluntary seminar for our students on the election from this past year. You may remember we had an election this past year. We spent about 10 or 12 sessions talking about that topic through various particular issues or areas of focus. And then we brought about 20 students up to a major symposium up at Harvard University to talk about that as well. Last year I had the pleasure of bringing 25 or so students to England for a combination of sort of service and cultural kind of immersion experience, and we got to be there during Brexit. Which was a particularly fascinating experience to be on the ground among actually other high school students. We spent time at a boarding school a little outside of Oxford. And our students have an opportunity to actually talk to those students and their teachers and Blair alums in London as that was all unfolding. And so in addition to having people come to our school and spend time with us and impart their thoughts and wisdom, we want to make sure our students are out there and experiencing the world. And we've sent students to do wonderful service and sort of cultural immersion opportunities, whether it's in Kenya or Rwanda, or it's down south in the United States, or whether it is in Europe or other parts of Central America, South America. We feel that that's an important commitment for us to bring the world to Blair and to make sure that our students are out there. So Jason talked a little bit about our commitment, and I think everyone talked a bit about our commitment to having a really robust intellectual life at the school. And so I might just pose to anyone who would like to chime in a little bit. So we obviously have that commitment in and outside the classroom to really a robust life of the mind. And to Mr. Curran's point, it's not just a life of the mind, it's a life of doing and acting upon our learning. So I'm wondering if maybe what that idea of the robust intellectual experience at Blair, what's been your experience? What are the things that are most exciting for you now and also looking forward? Maybe I might turn that over to Mr. Multeney for a moment, just to put him right on the spot.
One of the things that always struck me when I was, before I started this job as a math teacher, was the importance of balance in our life of minds, as Chris puts it. And even when I was teaching a math course at the highest level to the strongest juniors in the school, I was most effective in that role understanding all of the different things they were trying to learn across the board, right? And the challenge of that, right? And that's something that only comes from being connected to students, not just in the classroom experience for 50 minutes, at a time, but to their lives at the school, right? To understand the challenges of trying to learn high-level math and high-level science and be a great history scholar all at the same time. Those are not unique pressures to any particular school, but the way a school goes about handling them and creating the opportunity to both enjoy the learning that's going on and, right, meet the pressure that is, right, that everyone feels to succeed within the learning environment. That's something that we are very intentional about here, creating those opportunities. And we push strongly for our students to take a broad slate of courses, including arts and technology electives, because we see the balance that it brings to their life. And we're always hoping that any student that comes to Blair finds passions that they can continue from their previous studies, but also has the chance for new passions. That's really important. I think Kelly spoke very well to that. Come here, learn something, right, about something you already cared about, but also learn stuff about things that you never knew were that exciting, right, and discover that. And the number of stories we can tell about students that have done that in their time at Blair are endless. And it makes teaching our students that much more enjoyable for us as faculty, because they bring that mentality to the classroom.
So in the honors biology program, to piggyback on the independent, fostering independent interests, we in the honors biology program, and we're hoping to expand this as well as the new building comes up and CIC gets finished and we have the expansion of Vogel and introduce more independent research facilities. Right now, at the end of the honors biology program, we do a capstone project where the students can pick one independent research project to work on, and they actually pick the topic. So we have all students that can research something they're interested in. And so this has been wonderful this year. We've had all students do different experiments using bacteria and different plants. And then at the end of it, for the first time this year, we presented those experiments and projects at a poster exposition. And we allowed the students to present their work on a poster and talk about their work, and all the students in the school were able to go around to the different posters and talk to the students about what their work was, and really get information about maybe possibly a class they'd like to take in the future, and also let the students talk about the research they've done and get excited about the work and present their work to the other students in the school. And that was really amazing this year.
And we printed all of those posters in-house using our graphic design tools. So our art department was essential in doing that, and that's the kind of interdisciplinary work that we continue to look to do. So to develop skills in a variety of disciplines and then bring them together to kind of show off a little bit, which we think is fun for our students to do, the types of interesting things they've learned, and do it in a setting that gets everyone excited for the learning that goes on.
So one of the things I and others have mentioned up here a little bit are the set of skills that we think our students are absolutely going to need in order to be competitive as they look at the college process, look at college, and also to feel fulfilled as they move forward in their lives. And one of those things in particular, as you've heard about public speaking, is about communication. Ultimately, to me, you could be the smartest person in the room, and if you can't effectively communicate who you are, what your values are, why people should find you valuable when we are all inundated with so much information and noise all the time. If you can't do that, then even if you're really smart, your great ideas might very likely sit on the shelf. So we very affirmatively gone out of our way for many years, especially in the last several years, to focus on how do our students become effective communicators, not just on this stage in front of 500 people giving a lecture or a speech, but how do you actually develop that facility with talking with adults and with others about the things that are important to you. So I'm wondering if I could maybe turn this back a little bit to maybe to Jason or to Laura to talk a little bit about the importance of effective communication and how we are viewing that in our experience, not just in the classroom, but beyond.
Sure. Yeah, so as I said, we start with questions and we think about what information is out there. And I think a part of this process is information literacy, right? How do we determine what information in the kind of morass of information that we're in the midst of every single day, whether it's news or internet, web searches or whatever it might be. How do we pick and choose what's really important, what can be helpful in terms of trying to answer questions? And then how do we turn that around and create mechanisms for communicating the ideas back to our peers, to our teachers, and to a broader audience? And so we spent a lot of time in the history department, the English department, and we're in the midst of thinking about how we write across the curriculum as well. But what are the mechanisms at play that help us to help kids, students, best communicate their ideas on the page, and then also be able to communicate those to each other. And we spent a ton of time working on the very basic stuff, right? How do you organize an essay? How do you come up with a good thesis statement? What is a good topic sentence? How do you actually use the information that you acquire from all the sources and put them together? But we also spent a lot of time working with kids on how do you stand up in front of a room and actually then teach your peers the information that you become somewhat of an expert on, right? And so that process of thinking, writing, speaking about the material is something that we're iterating over and over and over again in the history department.
Sure, it happened in the English department too. A couple years ago, we decided that we would have a junior exhibition where students in the winter would read, in this case it was Beloved, and they'd write essays about Beloved. Then they would be put in groups where they would read each other's papers on Beloved and prepare to defend their theses and their arguments orally in front of these classmates who would question them, whose feedback the original writer would need to take in, and then over the winter break respond to in order to revise their papers. Because one of the most difficult things I imagine students who are here today know, the most important things to do is to revise your original work. So we felt like that was a step that we wanted to teach really explicitly, since it is so hard. It's so hard to invest enough of your energies and smarts into writing something and then to uninvest your ego in order to take feedback on it and revise. So we realized, I think, that's a critical step that we practice explicitly. And students are now in a second junior exhibition where they read a book on their own, and now they need to write a speech or write a paper about it that they need to defend again. And this time they don't have the benefit of everyone in the class having read the same book. So it's another level of challenge that we're offering our students in the way of communicating effectively and clearly and persuasively about something that they're expert in.
So now I want to wrap up, I know, in a couple of minutes too, but one of the things I just wanted to make close to you and even just quickly chime in myself too. So there's rigor and there's the life of the mind and there's incredibly wonderful and competitive athletics and the college level plus theater at this school, but I want to just take a moment to sort of end on joy and fun and tradition at this school. And joy is something that not every moment is going to be joyful. There are moments of challenge and those challenges are important. They actually help us learn and move forward. But I have loved the fact, I have two young children of my own who are 10 and 7. When I decided to come to Blair, I made a very conscious choice. This is where I wanted to raise my children. This is where I wanted them to go to school. And I'm a pretty overprotective parent, so that's quite a testament. These are the people I wanted my children to be around. And part of that is because in addition to working hard and tapping into all the reserves and resilience that you need to have, we want students to feel and experience joy. And there are these moments here, these sometimes very small moments. We were talking with students about effective narrative and storytelling and talking about that topic in general. One night I went by one of our girls' dorms and I walk into a common room and there are 6 or 7 girls and they're all sobbing. And they're looking at a YouTube video and I said, what's happening here? And when we were talking about like stories and storytelling, we started Googling like the saddest commercials. And they said, you've got to watch it, Mr. Fortunato. And I came in and they like replayed a couple of these commercials that were about a minute or two long. And they're still just sobbing. They're like, this is wonderful, but we're sobbing. And I walked out of there, I came home to my wife and just said like, that's kind of a great moment, right? That I get to walk around and talk to these students and be with them when they are like actually trying to learn how to tell a really good story. But this is sort of wonderful, natural, adolescent moment of like, I saw a really sad commercial and I just cried in front of the headmaster. And then earlier this year, we run a leadership seminar for all of our sophomores once a week. I was the section leader for that. And our students in my section put together a fundraiser around supporting families of cancer victims who can't afford some of their basic life costs. And those students, many of them had not had any exposure to that kind of work, put so much into it in an ungraded seminar and ultimately raised about $37,000 in helping to create a foundation to do that kind of work. And so there are moments of unbelievable joy that I, as a head of school, get to experience working directly with our students. But I might quickly go down the line, if anyone wants to chime in, thinking about maybe those small moments or those joyful moments you've had over the course of this or past years. Okay.
So one of my favorite days every year is Petty Day, which is our culminating fall sports event where all of our athletic teams play all of Petty's athletic teams. Petty's our main athletic rival. Every sport counts on that day. So as a third soccer coach, coaching players who, some played soccer for years, some have no experience whatsoever. The idea that a game you play matters and matters to the school as much as a varsity football game is really special. And so having the chance to take that field with the players every year, and being more successful than less successful in our recent years, there's some incredible joy that comes from those moments of contributing in a way to an athletic competition that for many students wasn't something they ever thought would be a part of their life. Right? I didn't come to Blair to play athletics at a high level, but here I am, right? And I matter to the school on that day. And so, while sometimes that joy turns into a cold shower from the Gatorade cup afterwards when it's 45 degrees in late November, despite my protestations, ultimately, those are some of my favorite memories of the school. It's why I still want to coach, even with all the other things going on, because that moment, that shared moment of joy of what we've accomplished is pretty unique and special.
I might cut them short
Okay.
more just for time.
We will share more joyful moments, maybe just one-on-one when you're walking around today. But I want to thank my colleagues for spending the time with us today and look forward to getting to know more of you over the course of the afternoon.